Have you ever wondered where true love, or at least highly forbidden love, blossomed way back in the medieval era? What secret corners and hidden havens did knights and ladies seek out for their most dangerous and passionate meetings, risking everything for a stolen kiss or a whispered promise? The tales of medieval romance are full of intrigue, danger, and most importantly, secret rendezvous spots. Number 5. Forests and wild woods. The deep, mysterious forests of medieval Europe were far more than just collections of trees. They were wild, untamed places often seen as beyond the reach of human law and society. For lovers seeking to escape the watchful eyes of kings, queens, jealous spouses, or strict societal rules, the forest offered an unparalleled refuge. It was a place where identities could be shed, where rank and title might temporarily disappear, and where passion could burn freely under the ancient canopy. The very idea of the forest held a dual nature in medieval thought. It was both a place of danger filled with wild beasts and outlaws, and a place of magical transformation where the rules of the civilized world simply did not apply. This duality made it perfect for secret trysts, offering both privacy and an exciting sense of peril. One of the most famous examples of the forest as a trysting place comes from the tragic and timeless legend of Tristan and Iseult. Their love, born from a magic potion, was an overwhelming force that drove them to defy the most powerful ruler of their time, King Mark of Cornwall. When their affair was discovered, or at least highly suspected, they were forced to flee the court and seek refuge in the vast, sprawling Morrois forest. This wasn't a choice. It was an exile, a desperate flight into the wilderness to preserve their forbidden love. The Morrois forest, in their story, is depicted as a primeval, almost sacred space, far from the stone walls and prying eyes of Tintagel Castle. In this wild, natural setting, Tristan and Iseult lived a life stripped bare of all courtly luxuries. They built a crude hut with interwoven branches, a simple shelter against the elements. Their days were spent hunting for food, gathering berries, and drinking from forest springs. Details of their life in the Morrois forest are crucial to understanding its role as a trysting place. It was a period of intense intimacy, but also one of profound hardship. They were together truly, alone for the first time, free from the judgment and suspicion that had plagued them at court. Yet their existence was one of constant vigilance, always on guard for discovery. Tales emphasize how their love sustained them, even in this harsh environment. They ate little, their faces grew thin, but their hearts were full of the love they shared. This period in the forest is often portrayed as the purest expression of their love, untainted by the political machinations of the court or the guilt of betrayal. However, the Morrois forest also played a role in their ultimate downfall. One day, King Mark, consumed by suspicion and a desire to see for himself, tracked them down. He found Tristan and Iseult sleeping in their hut, exhausted from their flight. But there was a detail that momentarily confused and softened the king. A naked sword lay between their bodies, a symbol of their chaste, innocent sleep, despite the passion that bound them. Some versions of the tale suggest this sword was placed there intentionally by Tristan, to deceive anyone who might find them, and to protect Iseult's honor. Even in exile, the image of the sword between them highlights the complex nature of their love, passionate yet in some ways pure, forced into circumstances where even their intimate moments had to be guarded. King Mark, seeing this, was momentarily convinced of their innocence, and left behind his glove and ring, a sign that he had been there. This incident pursues the precarious nature of forest trysts. They offered privacy, but never absolute security. The wilderness was vast, but not invisible. Another famous instance of the forest as a meeting place, albeit one with a more complex dynamic, comes from the Arthurian legends, particularly involving Sir Lancelot and Queen Guinevere. While their most famous trysts occur within the castle walls, the forest often served as a preliminary or secondary setting for their clandestine encounters. Knights, including Lancelot, frequently embarked on quests or hunts that led them deep into the woods, away from the prying eyes of Camelot. These excursions could be used as pretexts for private meetings. A knight might accidentally cross paths with a lady, or seek a specific secluded spot for a whispered conversation away from the ever-present courtiers. The anonymity of the forest allowed for a brief suspension of courtly etiquette, enabling a freedom of speech and touch that would be unthinkable back in the Great Hall. In some Arthurian romances, the forest becomes a place where lovers are separated and then reunited, adding to the drama and tension of their secret affair. Lancelot, often driven by his overwhelming love for Guinevere, would wander through the forest in states of despair or madness. When separated from her, these periods of wild man existence in the woods, stripped of his knightly identity, paradoxically allowed him to pursue thoughts of his queen with an intensity impossible within the confines of court. When he did encounter Guinevere or messengers from her, these meetings often took place in secluded clearings, by hidden springs, or under ancient trees. Low-fated quality to their encounters. The dense foliage and winding paths ensured that no one could easily follow or witness their intimate discussions or shared moments. The romance of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight also subtly shapes the role of the forest as a setting for tests of loyalty and temptation, which can be seen as a form of trysting. While Gawain is not pursuing a forbidden love with Lady Bertilac, the daily encounters between them in the castle, while Lord Bertilac is out hunting in the wild woods, are structured very much like a series of courtly trysts. The bedroom itself becomes a private space, but the reason it is private is because the Lord is in the forest. The forest, in this sense, provides the temporal and spatial freedom for the seduction to occur back at the castle. The wild nature of the hunt, depicted in vivid detail, parallels the wilder, more untamed desires at play in the lady's chambers. The deep woods surrounding Bertilac's castle provide the perfect cover for Lord Bertilac's true identity as the Green Knight, a figure embodying the wildness and ancient power of nature. Its story embodying that takes place within the castle walls. The forest here is not just a backdrop. It is an active participant in the moral and romantic challenges faced by the knight. Beyond specific examples, the general symbolism of the medieval forest made it an ideal trysting ground. It represented a departure from the ordered Christian world of the castle and the cultivated field. It was the realm of fairies, spirits, and ancient pagan magic. This association with the mystical and the unknown added another layer of intrigue to any secret meeting held within its depths. Clandestine encounter in the forest wasn't just a physical act of defiance, it was almost a spiritual one, a stepping outside the boundaries of God's watchful eye and into a more primal, unfettered existence. The rustling leaves and the calls of birds became the only witnesses, far more discreet than human courtiers. Furthermore, the very act of journeying into the forest for a meeting required courage and determination. It was not a casual stroll. Pathways were often rough, the terrain unpredictable, and the threat of robbers or wild animals always present. This shared experience of overcoming obstacles, of facing the unknown together, could deepen the bond between lovers, forging a stronger connection in the face of adversity. The effort involved made the tryst feel more significant, more earned, more precious. Chill of the night air, the soft glow of moonlight filtering through the branches, the scent of damp earth and pine. These sensory details would heighten the emotional intensity of the encounter, making it unforgettable. The forest was a versatile backdrop for all kinds of secret liaisons. Could be a place of desperate escape, as with Tristan and Iseult, where love was the only thing standing between them in utter desolation. It could be a place of passionate encounters for established lovers like Lancelot and Guinevere, offering momentary respite from the crushing weight of their public roles. Could even be a place where the rules of courtship were subtly bent, where a lady might offer a knight a symbolic favor or a private word, knowing that the dense woods absorbed all whispers and hid all glances. The wildness of the forest mirrored the wildness of forbidden desire, making it an inevitable and potent setting for the clandestine affairs that drove so much of medieval romance. Number 4. Secluded castle chambers and towers. While the untamed wilderness of the forest offered a sanctuary from prying eyes, the very heart of power, the castle itself also contained some of the most dangerous and thrilling trysting places imaginable. For lovers whose lives were intertwined with the court, leaving the castle was not always an option. Instead, they had to find their secret havens within the very walls that represented authority, loyalty, and rigid social order. This made their encounters intensely dramatic, fraught with the constant threat of discovery and dire consequences. The risk amplified the passion, turning a whispered word or a stolen touch into an act of profound defiance. The most iconic example of a castle chamber as a trysting place undoubtedly belongs to Sir Lancelot and Queen Guinevere, the quintessential forbidden lovers of Arthurian legend. Their affair, central to many versions of the Lancelot Grail cycle, unfolds primarily within the grand, yet paradoxically private spaces of Camelot. Guinevere's chambers specifically become the stage for their most intimate and perilous meetings. These were not public rooms, they were the Queen's private apartments, accessed through carefully guarded doors and sometimes secret passages. The mechanics of their trysts were complex and relied on incredible secrecy and the help of trusted allies. The figure of Galehaut, a powerful and noble lord, plays a pivotal role in bringing Lancelot and Guinevere together for their first kiss. Galehaut, who himself harbored a deep platonic admiration for Lancelot, acted as the ultimate go-between. He persuaded Guinevere to grant Lancelot an audience, emphasizing the knight's devotion and suffering. The scene of their first kiss, as recounted in the Old French Lancelot Grail Vulgate cycle, is a masterpiece of tension and unspoken desire. It takes place in a secluded part of the Queen's chamber, away from any lingering attendants. Lancelot is trembling with a mixture of fear and longing. Guinevere, initially reserved, is swayed by Galehaut's advocacy and Lancelot's evident adoration. The Queen offers Lancelot a kiss, a gesture of courtly favor, but it is charged with far more meaning. Lancelot, overwhelmed, hesitates. It is Guinevere who ultimately leans forward and initiates the kiss, a moment of profound significance. This single act, taking place in the Queen's own room, seals their fate and marks the beginning of their passionate, ill-fated affair. The very setting, the Queen's private chamber, highlights the immense risk they are taking. This is not a chance encounter in a field. It is a deliberate act of betrayal against King Arthur, happening right under his figurative nose, within the very heart of his kingdom. Subsequent meetings between Lancelot and Guinevere also take place in similar private spaces within the castle. These were not just quick embraces. They involved hours of conversation, sharing secrets, and the deepening of their emotional and physical bond. The privacy of the chamber allowed for a level of intimacy impossible anywhere else. They could speak freely, confess their fears and desires, and find solace in each other's presence. The locked doors and drawn curtains created a world apart, a temporary sanctuary where the pressures of courtly life could be set aside. However, this sanctuary was always fragile. A misstep, a betraying servant, a suspicious guard, any of these could lead to their discovery, and the consequences for adultery, especially with a queen, were brutal, often involving execution. The high stakes of these castle trysts added to their allure and intensity. Every rustle outside the door, every distant sound could send a jolt of terror through the lovers. Their passion was intensified by the constant threat of exposure. This element of danger made their love story so compelling to medieval audiences and continues to fascinate readers today. It speaks to the idea that true love can overcome any obstacle, even the most formidable walls of convention and power. Beyond the Queen's chambers, other secluded parts of the castle could serve as trysting spots. Empty guard towers, abandoned wings, hidden staircases, or even the battlements under the cover of night could provide momentary privacy. These places, often cold and drafty nonetheless, offered a sense of clandestine adventure. A knight might scale a wall, or a lady might slip through a servant's passage to reach a secret rendezvous point. The very architecture of a medieval castle, with its complex layout of rooms, courtyards, and defensive structures, inadvertently created numerous nooks and crannies suitable for secret meetings. Small, forgotten chapels, storerooms, or even privy gardens within the castle walls could be pressed into service. The tale of Floris and Blanchefleur, a popular romance in the 12th century, features castle confinement as a key element of their trysting. Floris travels across many lands to rescue his beloved Blanchefleur, who has been sold into slavery and confined in a tower with other beautiful young women destined for a sultan's harem. The tower, a place of imprisonment, becomes the setting for their reunion. Floris, through cleverness and bribery, manages to enter the tower disguised. He finds Blanchefleur's chamber, and their reunion is a moment of intense joy and relief, a passionate embrace after long separation and great danger. The tower, designed to keep people in paradoxically, becomes a place where their love can briefly flourish, hidden from the outside world. Their trysts in this tower are fraught with the risk of discovery by the Sultan, but the sheer joy of being together again in a space that is technically private to Blanchefleur and her companions allows their love to reign supreme. Contrast between the outward grandeur and public display of courtly life and the intense dangerous secrecy of castle trysts is a powerful theme in medieval romance. Knights and ladies were expected to uphold strict codes of conduct to embody chivalry and chastity. Yet behind closed doors, human passions often defied these rigid expectations. The castle, a symbol of order and hierarchy, thus became a stage for revolutionary acts of love. The very stones of the castle, which witnessed so many public ceremonies and political intrigues, also bore silent witness to whispered vows, tender embraces, and stolen moments of happiness between forbidden lovers. These secluded castle chambers and towers were not just physical spaces. They were metaphorical battlegrounds where personal desire fought against societal expectation, often with tragic, but always captivating results. Number 3. Enclosed gardens and rose bowers. While the castle walls represented power and the forest represented wild freedom, the enclosed garden in medieval romance offered a unique blend of both. A controlled, cultivated nature, a space of privacy and beauty, carefully separated from the outside world. These gardens, known as hortus conclusus or enclosed gardens, were symbolic spaces, often representing paradise, purity, and the ideal setting for love to blossom. They were typically walled, providing a sense of seclusion and security, yet filled with the sensuous delights of flowers, fountains, and fragrant herbs. For lovers, the enclosed garden was an idyllic trysting place, a natural sanctuary where courtly love could unfold in all its intricate glory. One of the most extensive and influential depictions of the enclosed garden as a space for love is found in the Roman de la Rose, a massive and highly allegorical French poem from the 13th century. The poem describes a young lover's dream journey into a magnificent high-walled garden. This garden is not merely a backdrop. It is the very heart of the allegorical quest for love. Within its walls reside personifications of various aspects of love and desire, idleness, delight, courtesy, and, most importantly, the rose itself, which represents the beloved lady. The lover's journey through this garden is a metaphorical pursuit of his love. He encounters a fountain, the fountain of Narcissus, whose clear waters reflect not only the garden's beauty, but also the image of the beloved rose. This fountain is a pivotal point, as gazing into it deepens the lover's desire and understanding of his quest. The garden is filled with meticulously described details: fragrant flowers, singing birds, shady trees, and perfectly manicured paths. Every element contributes to an atmosphere of sensual pleasure and amorous possibility. The high walls of the garden ensure its privacy, keeping out the harsh realities of the world and creating a secluded realm dedicated solely to the pursuit of love. Within this garden, specific spots become key for moments of yearning and approach. The rose bower, a secluded arbor or alcove covered with roses, is the ultimate goal. It is the most private and beautiful spot in the garden, the place where the lover hopes to finally pluck the rose, a clear metaphor for achieving his beloved's affection, perhaps even intimacy. The entire poem is a long drawn-out courtship, full of advances, retreats, and the complex interplay of emotions and allegorical figures. The garden, with its layers of symbolism and its carefully crafted beauty, perfectly embodies the ideal setting for this complex and often frustrating quest for love. Privacy offered by the garden's walls allows for the intense internal monologues of the lover, his hopes, fears, and schemes, without external interruption. Another famous literary example, though perhaps less explicitly a trysting place than a setting for a meeting that hints at love, is found in Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. While not the central focus of the poem, the beautiful orchard and gardens surrounding Bertilac's castle in Hodesert serve as a setting for the initial interactions between Gawain and Lady Bertilac. Lady Bertilac, the Lord's wife, is depicted as exquisitely beautiful and charming, and she actively seeks out Gawain in the garden for conversation. Their walks and talks in this pleasant, private space, away from the more formal hall, set the stage for the seductive game that will later unfold in the bedchamber. The garden offers a relaxed, less formal atmosphere, allowing for flirtation and the subtle testing of Gawain's chivalric resolve. The walled garden, a miniature paradise, becomes the perfect place for Lady Bertilac to begin her elegant, alluring assault on Gawain's feigned chastity and courtesy. Many Arthurian romances also feature gardens as places where knights and ladies would stroll, converse, and sometimes arrange secret meetings. Queen Guinevere, for example, is often depicted enjoying the gardens of Camelot or other castles. These gardens would often include shaded arbors, secluded benches, or private walkways that offered a degree of privacy. Even within the confines of a busy court, a knight could approach a lady in the garden, engage in a conversation that was ostensibly about flowers or poetry, but which contained hidden messages of affection or a request for a later, more private rendezvous. The beauty of the garden, with its fragrant blossoms and birdsong, provided a romantic and natural backdrop for these subtle interactions, enhancing the mood of delicate courtship and nascent desire. The symbolic significance of the enclosed garden cannot be overstated. It was often associated with purity and innocence, especially in religious imagery. The Virgin Mary was sometimes depicted in a hortus conclusus. Yet in secular romance, this very purity made it an ideal place for the blossoming of earthly love. Even forbidden love, the walls that protected its beauty from the outside world, also protected the secrets whispered within. The scent of roses, the murmur of a fountain, the dappled sunlight through the leaves, these sensory details contributed to an atmosphere of sensual delight, inviting intimacy. Furthermore, the cultivation of the garden itself mirrored the cultivation of courtly love. Just as a garden needed careful tending, pruning, and nurturing to flourish, so too did the complex dance of courtly love require patience, subtlety, and adherence to specific rules. The gardener was like the lover, carefully tending to his beloved's affections, hoping for a beautiful bloom. The rose in particular became the quintessential symbol of the beloved, beautiful, desirable, but also thorny and hard to attain. The act of entering the rose bower and plucking the rose was the culmination of a long, arduous, and often perilous journey of love. The enclosed garden, therefore, was not merely a physical space. It was a deeply symbolic landscape of desire, temptation, and the ultimate often dangerous pursuit of the beloved. It provided a perfect stage for secret passions to bloom in the heart of the medieval world. Number 2. Mystical caves and hidden grottos. Beyond the cultivated beauty of gardens and the grand walls of castles, the medieval world also harbored deeper, more ancient secrets within its natural landscape. Caves and hidden grottos. These subterranean or secluded rock formations were often seen as mysterious places linked to the earth's primal forces, ancient spirits, or even the underworld. Their darkness, dampness, and isolation made them ideal for clandestine meetings, but also imbued those meetings with a sense of the otherworldly, the fated, or the truly desperate. Unlike the planned secrecy of a castle chamber or the cultivated privacy of a garden, a cave tryst often implied an escape, a hiding place from a world that had become too hostile. The most powerful and enduring image of a cave as a trysting place comes once again from the tragic legend of Tristan and Iseult. After their initial flight into the Morrois forest, their love potion-driven passion led them to a specific, almost mythical cave. This is not just any cave. It is often referred to as the Cave of Lovers, or La Salle aux Images. In various versions of their tale, this cave was unlike the crude hut they had built earlier. It was a place of natural wonder, carved into the side of a hill with a beautiful spring flowing through it. It was isolated, deep within the wilderness, and seemingly untouched by human hands. The descriptions of this cave emphasize its beauty and its almost sacred quality. Sunlight, filtering through an opening, illuminated its interior, making it seem less like a dark, damp hole and more like a secret natural sanctuary. The spring within the cave was pure and refreshing, symbolizing the purity of their fated love despite its illicit nature in the eyes of the world. In this cave, Tristan and Iseult lived for a significant period, once again relying on hunting and foraging to survive. Here they were truly alone, free from all human judgment and observation. The cave offered them not just physical shelter, but a profound sense of psychological refuge, a place where their intense, overwhelming love could exist without external interference. Crucial detail of their time in the Cave of Lovers, echoing their earlier forest encounter, is the sword that lay between them as they slept. This detail, present in several versions of the story, serves a dual purpose. It symbolizes the innocence they maintain in their physical intimacy, a chaste love that, despite being born of a potion, is seen as spiritually pure and fated. It also acts as a visual deception, a sign to any potential observer like King Mark that they are not truly committing adultery, even as they share a deep forbidden bond. King Mark eventually discovers them here, just as he did in the forest. And again, the sight of the sword between them gives him pause, momentarily convincing him of their innocence. This repetitive motif verrs the idea that their love, while illicit, holds a unique, almost sacred quality that even their enemies struggle to condemn outright when confronted with its purity. Cave, with its natural purity and isolation, perfectly frames this complex aspect of their relationship. Beyond Tristan and Iseult, caves and grottos often appear in other medieval romances as places of retreat or encounter. Hermits, holy men and women seeking solitude and spiritual contemplation, frequently dwelled in caves. These locations could become accidental trysting places if a knight lost or seeking guidance stumbled upon a reclusive lady living in such a grotto. In some tales, a hidden grotto might be the secret dwelling of a fairy or an enchantress, and a knight might be drawn there for a magical encounter that, while not always overtly romantic, could certainly involve elements of seduction or profound gooding interaction. The very mystery of the cave, its connection to the unseen world, made any meeting within its confines feel extraordinary and highly charged. The isolation of a cave or grotto was its primary advantage as a trysting place. Unlike a castle chamber, which was always at risk of being breached by human agency, a cave offered a more fundamental kind of seclusion, dictated by nature itself. Its remoteness meant that very few people would ever stumble upon it, The rough, unadorned interior of a cave also stripped away the social conventions and hierarchies that dictated behavior in courtly settings. Here, a knight and a lady could be simply two people unbound by their titles or obligations, sharing a profound moment away from all external pressures. The imagery associated with caves often carried deep symbolism in the medieval mind. They were associated with birth and death, with the earth's womb, and with ancient pre-Christian beliefs. Meeting in a cave could therefore feel like stepping back in time into a primordial state where love existed before social rules. Cool, constant temperature of a cave, its echoing silence, and the drip of water all contributed to a unique sensory experience that would heighten the intensity of any secret meeting. The very act of seeking refuge in a cave suggested a level of desperation and commitment, a willingness to abandon the comfort and safety of civilization for the sake of love. While perhaps less common than gardens or castle chambers, the cave as a trysting place, particularly in the enduring tale of Tristan and Iseult, leaves a lasting impression due to its primal, elemental nature. It symbolizes a love so powerful it transcends earthly boundaries. A love that finds its purest expression when stripped bare of all societal artifice and hidden away in the deepest, most secret parts of the natural world. The mystical cave, with its blend of natural beauty and profound isolation, provided the ultimate sanctuary for a love that dared to defy all rules. Number 1. Tranquil riverbanks and enchanted fountains. Rivers and fountains in medieval romance were much more than just sources of water. They were vibrant, symbolic landscapes often associated with purity, life, reflection, and change. They were also common gathering spots, places where people from different social strata might cross paths, or where travelers might pause on a journey. This blend of accessibility and natural beauty made riverbanks and fountains surprisingly potent, if often fleeting, locations for trysts from chance encounters that sparked love to planned, clandestine meetings. One of the most profound literary examples of a fountain's role in romance comes from a highly influential Roman de la Rose, which we discussed earlier in relation to gardens. While the entire garden is the setting for the lover's quest, the fountain of Narcissus within it is a critical point of encounter and transformation. This fountain is not just a water source, it is a magical pool that reflects the entire garden and, crucially, the image of the beloved rose. When the lover gazes into its clear waters, he is immediately struck by the reflection of the two crystal stones at the bottom, which perfectly mirror the rose. This act of seeing the beloved's image, albeit reflected and mediated, ignites his deep desire and understanding of his love quest. The Fountain of Narcissus serves as a symbolic trysting place because it is here that the lover first truly meets the object of his affection in a profound internal way. Even if she is not physically present, his contemplation of the reflection is a moment of intense emotional connection, a psychological tryst that sets the entire narrative in motion. Tragic Putro of Narcissus, who fell in love with his own reflection and wasted away, adds a layer of warning to the fountain. Love, when misdirected or overly self-absorbed, can be destructive. Yet for the lover in the poem, the fountain is a place of revelation, a catalyst for his passionate pursuit of the rose. It is a place where love is born, not necessarily through physical contact, but through profound internal recognition and desire. The tranquil setting of the fountain, surrounded by the beauty of the garden, allows for this deep introspective moment of amorous awakening. Rivers and riverbanks, while perhaps less explicitly trysting than gardens or castles, often served as convenient and naturally private locations for encounters that led to romance. In many tales, knights would be riding along a river, or stopping to water their horses when they would happen upon a lady bathing or collecting water, or simply enjoying the natural beauty. These chance meetings, seemingly innocent, were often charged with immediate attraction. The river itself, with its flowing water, symbolized the passage of time, the journey of life, and sometimes the cleansing or renewing power of love. The banks, often fringed with trees or reeds, offered natural concealment, allowing for whispered conversations or stolen glances that would be impossible in more public settings. Consider the general narrative patterns in Arthurian romances. Knights are often on quests, traveling through diverse landscapes. Rivers are natural boundaries and thoroughfares. It is entirely plausible that a knight might arrange to meet a lady by a specific ford or bridge, knowing that the location was somewhat out of the way and that the natural sounds of the flowing water would mask their voices. These encounters might not be grand, dramatic trysts like Lancelot and Guinevere's in the Queen's chamber, but rather quieter, more intimate moments of shared vulnerability and developing affection. A riverside could be where a lady might offer a knight a token of her favor, or where a knight might make a passionate declaration of love. The natural beauty of the setting, with its soft light and the gentle murmur of the water, would add a romantic aura to these delicate interactions. Another powerful image involving water comes from the legend of Sir Ivain, one of King Arthur's knights, who finds love at a magical fountain. In the tale of Ivain, or the Knight of the Lion, there is a particular magical fountain in a clearing under a pine tree with a stone basin and a chain. When water is poured from the basin onto the stone, it causes a fierce storm. Ivain visits this fountain, defeats the knight who guards it, and subsequently marries the lady of the fountain, Laudine. While their marriage is official, the fountain itself becomes the symbolic site of their fated meeting and the starting point of their intense, if sometimes troubled, love. The storm, which is directly linked to the fountain, symbolizes the tumultuous nature of their passion and the challenges they will face. The fountain, therefore, is not just a place where they meet. It is the source of their destiny together, and a place he returns to, haunted by his actions and seeking reconciliation. It is where their love is tested and ultimately, hopefully, renewed. Fountains, especially in castle courtyards or enclosed gardens, also served as convenient, almost accidental trysting spots. While a public fountain might seem too exposed, a secluded fountain in a private garden offered a natural point of convergence. Lovers could linger by the fountain, ostensibly admiring its design or drinking its water, while discreetly exchanging glances, notes, or brief, intimate words. The splashing water would provide a natural sound screen, making it difficult for casual observers to overhear hushed conversations. The beauty of the fountain, often adorned with intricate carvings of mythical creatures or romantic figures, would also contribute to the romantic atmosphere. The symbolism of water in medieval thought is rich and varied. Water was seen as life-giving, purifying, and brug. A tryst by a river or fountain could therefore imply a love that was pure, refreshing, or capable of changing the lovers' lives. The reflective surface of water could also symbolize introspection, the mirroring of souls, or the revelation of hidden truths. These natural water sources, with their inherent beauty and their potent symbolism, provided medieval lovers with a blend of privacy and natural enchantment, making them perfect, if sometimes fleeting, locations for their secret passions to unfold.